Hello, everyone. It's Tuesday night, October 19th, 2021. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And this is FPH Weekly here on Full Press Coverage. Mike Straw joined by Chris Wassel. No Jim Behringer tonight. He's enjoying himself at the Devils Kraken game. But Chris, we're 1 week into the season. How are you doing tonight?
I was doing really good up until about 20 minutes ago when I saw my not my favorite player, but my star player on my hockey team get slew-footed by some miscreant expansion Kraken player that will remain forever nameless. But all joking aside, Mike, I'm doing great. It's hockey season. We got 11 games tonight. It's nice to have, I'll be honest, it is nicer to have a more spread out schedule than that condensed thing that we had last year.
It's nice and it's not nice at the same time. But granted, last year was nice because I was just consuming as a fan. I wasn't working like I am again this year. So maybe I'd feel differently if I had to do this that year or last year. But we have a very good show today. We have a lot to get to. We're going to be talking about Evander, Kane, and his suspension. We got early season flukes. What team that's had a bad start could rebound? What team that started out okay or pretty hot won't keep it up? Our 3 stars of the week. But joining us in about 10 minutes is Adam Proto, who everybody knows of if you follow any sort of hockey. Great reporter. You could find his work on Full Press Coverage. You could find his work on the Hockey News, everywhere and anywhere. He'll be joining us to talk his first week surprises, the Nikita Kutrav injury and what it means to Tampa Bay Lightning, the never-ending saga that is Jack Eichel and the Buffalo Sabres. But let's start with this, Chris. The Montreal Canadiens are really, really bad. And I get they have all these injuries, 8 players out, no Shea Weber, no Carey Price. They're very, very bad.
Nothing's working. Nothing. It's all gone. It's all gone wrong. And the first 10 minutes of tonight's game was if that wasn't a perfect illustration of what their season has been, it's been the exact opposite of what the playoffs were last summer. They like we said, can't score, can't really kill penalties well, can't do anything on the power play. And when something does go right for them, invariably they go 2 steps backward almost every single time so far in this first week of the season. And I mean, it's to the point now where I saw today, I don't ask me the publication, but there is now Mark Bergevin, the LA rumors are ready.
And so I feel like Montreal could have started 3-0, right? And there'd be rumors of something insane happening.
There would.
Because it's Montreal. Like, no matter what happens, Montreal can win the cup, and there'd be rumors that, like, Carey Price burned down the city the night before they won the cup. And, that's just how Montreal works and everything involved in that city works. But, yeah, nothing is going right for them. I feel for them, but at the same time, not at all, because it's Montreal. Another team that might be really bad. And again, we'll get into this with our flukes and we'll see if these are going to sustain. But another team that is playing poorly to start the year with the worst goal differential or second worst goal differential in the NHL behind the Arizona Coyotes, or only in front of the Arizona Coyotes and tied with Montreal or the New York Islanders. What's the deal with them? And this might be something we bring up with Adam when he joins us at 8:10, but he's just there. I don't know what's going on, but through 2 games, 4 goals for, 11 goals against, goaltending isn't there. Defense is not there.
That's the big part.
They're giving up just shot after shot after shot, and they're leaving Sorokin, they're leaving and Varlamov, they're leaving their goaltenders out to dry right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing goalies being left like a bad suit jacket on a cellar line. I mean, that's literally how bad this is. one of the big things that I noticed, at least, and we saw the last couple seasons in Boston, maybe not as much, and then we saw it in Washington last year. Teams are just going straight right up at Zdeno Chara. They just are. They're going
He's done.
right. And this is the thing. It's like the theory of an old 40-year-old boxer with a long reach. He still has that long reach, but if you get inside that long reach, he can't punch you. This is sort of the same approach. He can't use his stick reach if you're already within that distance. And teams realize that. And look, they scored at least, I think it was 4 goals on. He was on the ice for at least 4 goals the other night, and another 2 or 3, in game 1. And it's not good. I mean, I've said this from the beginning. One of my biggest problems with the Islanders going into the season is that their defense is slow. I mean, it's sloth-like. And oh, by the way, just some breaking news. I don't know if you saw it, Mike. Anders Lee is out tonight with an illness. It's not COVID. It's just an illness. He's not feeling good. Bad tummy. Kiefer Bellows is on the top line, which means automatic goal scoring is going to happen.
I mean, if there's any way to rebound and get off the schneid, as they say,
might be now.
Going against the Chicago Blackhawks might be the perfect antidote you need, man. I mean, they don't look like their game against Pittsburgh. They don't look anything like a competent hockey team. It's like they don't even know the games they're starting when they're starting.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is another case where you have a team where, my word, it's rough. I mean, Seth Jones, every time he's on the ice, there seems like there's a high danger scoring chance going the other way.
Hold on. I believe we could have called this when we were talking about it, Jim, you and myself, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, where we were talking about how bad that was going to be.
It was rough. I mean, we said it. Nobody could believe 8 years, $76 million in a month of Sundays. Ever.
Now, I'm not saying I'm a better hockey player, because I'm not. Like, they are still professional athletes. But man, if I was as bad at my job as like Seth Jones has become at his, as to, you're a defenseman, the goal is to keep the puck away from your net. Even if you're an offensive defenseman, you still are trying to keep the puck away from your net. If I was that bad as a software engineer, I don't think I'd be a software engineer. Just put it that way. That thing, huh? I just, man, he doesn't look good. A lot of teams don't look good.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things going on.
Again, we're only 1 weekend.
But it's early.
But never too soon to overreact. Just tuned in. Momentarily, we will be joined by Adam Proto. Got a lot to talk with him, including, here's a little tease, including I promised on Twitter that I will ask him the hardest question he's ever been asked. He thinks it's math related. But I'm going to let you in a little secret before he joins us. I haven't decided on the question yet.
You've thrown the knuckle puck out there.
It's knuckle puck time.
That's right. How many times? Look, I could sit there and I joke with people. It's like, how many goals that I've scored off a knuckle puck in my hockey days.
We do have some news as we're on the air here. Pavel Buchnevich suspended 2 games.
Had to be.
For his hit last night. Not surprising.
Yep.
We can't have that in the league.
No headbutting.
No. I mean, if Andrew Shaw couldn't do it a few years ago for the Blackhawks when he headbutted the puck in the net for a goal, then you can't do it as a hit.
I know. As much as I like
though that would be cool for that to count. Let's be real. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Here, I'm going to ask you a question real quick while we have a minute.
Yep.
I know it's kind of blurry, but I posted this on Twitter. I'm going to ask you live on the air. What is Casey Middlestat reacting to right here?
That is a $64,000 question that I don't have an answer to, but wow, that is some reaction there.
Whoa. For those who aren't seeing, he literally looks absolutely dumbfounded. As what actually happened is I'm working on my review for NHL 22, and I scored a goal, and I noticed his face in the celebration. I'm like, this is the best O face I've ever seen in a video game. So I needed to post the O face.
Oof. That is some face right there. That
Yeah.
is priceless.
So while we wait for Adam to join us, hopefully everything works. We were having issues. We were going to have him call in, but we're having issues with the phone number. So we're trying a different way to get him to join the show. Chris, is there anything that you've seen that has maybe, and we're not going to go into too detail yet, but what surprised you over the first handful of games?
But I mean, the biggest thing for me, and I'm still going to say this because I can't believe that I would see a game where a player scored 4 goals and that team still blew a 3-goal lead in no time flat. And I thought that was it. I thought that, when Tampa Bay came back and they won 7-6 over Detroit, I thought, oh, that's it. No. Carter Hutton. Holy good. I mean, all right. I've seen some bad goaltending performances, but what I saw last night may have been one of the worst in the last decade. In a confined amount of period, Mike. It wasn't like this was like the whole game. It was just like 1 10-minute brain cramp. That was it. I mean, he
Really,
gave up
I
5
feel like,
goals faster than Hades.
I don't know. I feel like Carter Hutton's 14 goals, 8.75 goals against in 2 games is pretty bad.
It is pretty bad, but that
laser vision didn't work.
No, it did not.
I mean, we saw it in Buffalo. It didn't work, and that's why he's no longer in the Sabres.
He needs better laser vision. Clearly,
he needs actual laser vision to laser beam the pucks down, because maybe then
something
that's what he gets.
I mean, that was pretty abysmal. I mean, a couple of the goals alone, I sat there dumbfounded, like I could have stopped that. And that's not saying much. I was like, I can't even stop a broadside of a barn myself, but that's pretty bad. I mean,
Agreed.
I think the best. I forgot who scored the. It might have been Jordan Kyrou, but literally, like, he scores and he just looks like as if to say, "Did I score?"
Right? Yeah. It's.
And I think it was Justin Falk who pointed out on the ice, and he literally like points to the net, and Kyrou starts laughing hysterically, like, "Yeah, I scored. Okay, now I'll go over and, like, I'll do the traditional, high fives with the other players and stuff," because he really did not know he scored.
Yeah. Do you think so? Goaltending hasn't been great. Let's be real. The first few games.
You mean like the last 2 years where it's been god awful in the first?
Yeah, but do you feel that it's set to be worse because there was a shortened off season?
I think it definitely sustains itself a little longer than it has, say over 2021 and 2020. There's no question about it. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to have an immense effect because of the shortened off season, and one of them is going to be, let's face it, the offense is going to be a little better than the defense and goaltending.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think any fan would really complain if they're watching games that are 5-4 or 4-3 night in, night out. I'm not going to complain. No one is going to complain about that. But while we wait to hopefully get Adam Proto on here, let's move in to the big story that dropped earlier today. We'll pump this up a little for now, and we'll pick it up if we have to later. Mm-hmm. Evander Kane suspended 21 games. This beach shark known as Evander Kane suspended 21 games by the NHL for violating COVID protocol. So he's been investigated for domestic violence. He's been investigated for gambling, which to me was a sham to begin with, because gambling should never be investigated on, in my opinion, unless you're actively throwing games. But he suspended for 21 games for allegedly faking a vaccine card.
Mm-hmm.
What? That suspension drops, and it's clear that this is a no BS, no tolerance policy with the NHL, which good for them. But what was your thought when that suspension came down? Because that's a quarter of the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hate to say this, but my first thought was they got him for that. I mean, there's so many things you could choose. I mean, and then you realize it's like, okay, some of the things he did. Wait, isn't that a? Then your second question is, isn't that a felony? I mean, isn't there some kind of legality to this where, this is not necessarily done yet unless that was settled and we don't know it. But either way, I mean, look, his time in San Jose, his days were numbered before this anyway. Well, before this anyway.
Yeah.
Before the start of the season. This just sort of doesn't rubber stamp it. It etches it into immortality, if you will. He's done. He may be done in the NHL at this point. As crazy as that sounds, because look, what happened in Winnipeg, then what happened here.
But here's the thing, and that's the thing. When he was in Buffalo, there were people like, oh, he went to Toronto. He took a helicopter to go to Toronto for a basketball game, like on a day off. Who cares?
No, it's not a big deal.
But this type of stuff, yeah, this to me. Now the Sharks, it's going to be interesting. They're going to spend this entire suspension trying to get out because they can't just simply terminate the contract.
Right.
We can see the players are having fun. They're enjoying being around each other. I guarantee you ask any of those players off the record, they're going to say, we don't want him back. No, maybe a few players say it on the record for everybody to hear, but all of them are going to say, we don't want him back off the record.
I think maybe Tomas Hertl, in so many words, is one of the only more prominent ones that has said, I mean, look, he wanted to be traded because of him. So
yeah, he's a leader on this team and he didn't want it anymore. He didn't want to deal with the headache that Evander Kane was becoming. And you got to think of it. Erik Karlsson doesn't want to deal with that. Martin Jones doesn't want to deal with that. No one wants to deal with that. And I don't blame him. But now if you're the Sharks, your only concern at this point is spending the next, 20 games worth of hockey, the next, 8-9 weeks.
Yeah, at least.
Trying to figure out how to get him off your roster. Because even if you buy him out and you got to pay him, I know they're going to look for whatever they can to get out of that contract, but they are not going to be able to. No team, I think, is going to take that contract with the headache he's been and all the problems he's had over the past couple years. So what can you realistically do? How do you see, how does this situation or how does this end with Evander Kane and the San Jose Sharks? We know it's heading for a divorce, but what is that divorce like?
Yeah, I mean, and this gets kind of, I don't know how to put this in a nice way. I mean, look, what is worse for San Jose is with this modified no trade clause, if you will, which I'll call for what it is, Mike. It's a no trade clause because really there's only 3 teams that he has to submit a list of 3 teams that he wants to be traded to.
And those 3 teams, I guarantee, wouldn't want him because he'll put 3 contenders.
Right. And they wouldn't want to touch him. That's
the closest team that might want him that may or may not be on his list is Vancouver, right? You'd have to assume, but I wouldn't want him.
Yeah, I don't think.
If I'm Jim Benning, no.
Yeah, I don't think Vancouver even touches him at this point.
No, he's like the Grinch. Wouldn't touch him with a 45.5-foot pole.
And he's also owed $4 million in signing bonuses remember, there's still a little bit less than 4 years left on his contract.
Yeah, that's albatross, man.
At $7 million AAV. So the buyout calculator is grand on this one, but that's hopefully something that you would think there has to be a way to get out of this for both parties involved. You would think. The question is how does San Jose maneuver this one? Because they clearly have a much better team, at least on the ice right now, or seemingly a team that is more at peace with itself.
Yep. It's just not good. We don't know what's going on. He needs to go. I do think his time in the league might be done. But we've seen players get chances back because of their personality or because of whatever. but it's hard for me to see any team wanting to touch him. Especially the whole faking a vaccine, like that bothers me more than I think anything, right? Not more than anything. The domestic violence stuff bothers me the most. But the faking a vaccine card, like how stupid do you have to be in thinking you'll get away with it? How stupid, especially when you're a professional athlete and you are under this grandiose microscope that's as high powered as anything you'll ever see in the world. I don't get it, and I'll never get it for as long as I follow this game and that I am on this green brown earth.
It's pretty rough. There's no question about it. Okay, so for the kicking the tires portion of the Evander Kane saga, there is the initial savings that San Jose would get if they just flat out bought him out. So it's not horrible.
But
it's not the one good thing. The one bad thing is they would have to wait till the end of the year to buy him out.
But what do you do in the meantime?
And
like he's going to come back. There's
right.
still going to be over 50 games remaining, almost 60 games remaining in the season. You're going to have to figure out something.
You can't legally
terminate
continue the suspension.
No.
You know, there's no more. There's no.
You basically pay him to be a healthy scratch and not show up.
I think that's almost what you have to kind of do, like what a certain NFL team has done with a quarterback in Houston.
Yeah, you pay him not show up, and I know it's not, especially in a league that doesn't make money hand over fist, but you have to. You got to figure it out, and it's just not. It's not looking good for Evander Kane, but it is looking good for the Sharks right now, who are up 4-0 on Montreal here in the second period. Oof. So they're doing just fine. So, we'll see if they can keep it up, if they can go. But for now, we are going to take a quick break. And when we get back, hopefully we have Adam Proto. If not, we'll move in to early season flukes. And we'll get into more of the Sharks and the Islanders and the Kings and all that stuff here, because you are tuned in to Full Press Hockey Weekly here on Twitter, YouTube.com, and Twitch.tv. And welcome back to FPH Weekly here on Full Press Coverage. You can find all of our NHL coverage and hockey coverage in general at fullpresshockey.com, youtube.com, search Full Press Coverage, and twitch.tv/Full Press Coverage. And we are happy to be joined now by the one and only prototype himself, Adam Proto. Adam, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Happy you're here and happy to talk some hockey.
Yeah, I'm happy for you guys too, Mike and Chris. It's nice to be on with you. Thanks for having me. I'm a little excited just to, in those first few days of the NHL, you still got that optimism pretty much anywhere, right? It kind of gives you a boost to the system, but now it's starting to slowly turn into the realities of some teams. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you and have a fun night.
Give me that optimism because Hurricane Oposo keeps on rolling through for the Sabres. And we're going to jump right in. What has been, now that's my first week surprise because he's already got 2 points again tonight for the Sabres against Vancouver. But what have been your biggest surprises over this first week of action?
Well, I think to be the very first one, to be honest, guys, is the amount of injuries. I think it feels like it's an epidemic at this stage. You've got guys falling over left and right. And I don't know if that's because of a shorter off season, a truncated regular season. I think that you really have to expect more from them and go from there. And if they haven't been training well enough or haven't been able to recoup their bodies from their previously healthy stage, we got to give them a break somehow. We got to give them load management, as the famous Kawhi Leonard said, right? I think it's going to look a lot now like road management and game management is going to be something that's a real issue, and if they do that, I think they will help themselves with preventing these accidents and being a little proactive. But there's other ones, obviously. Buffalo, Ottawa has looked competitive. Montreal was, Montreal, I didn't personally believe in what those changes were they made. I think they were forced into them by obviously health and Weber's absence, but also by position. And I think they had some guys who other people wanted. They had some talent that they knew the Canadians had painted into a corner, and basically got them to squeeze out and get Kotkaniemi. I never pronounced that right, but he, that was another one that surprised me. I think the trading of him, the offer sheet, and the kind of out in the open snaring at each other. Right, we really don't see owners do that anymore. They do that at the board of directors meetings and ownership retreats. So I think we've got to give them a chance.
I mean, we have to think that Montreal has no they can't recover from the sick burns that the Carolina Hurricanes have given them. Like there's just there's no shot. But you brought up the injuries, and to me, all that signifies is that coaches this year are going to have to deal with way more than they've ever had to with how things are going. It's just, and you don't know why. It's just a fluke, luck of the draw, why all these injuries are happening. But could this be, I mean, what are some coaches, and I don't want to say they'll make or break their tenure with their team because of how they handle injuries, but what teams do you think from a coaching staff might be best equipped to navigate these seas with this type of start to the year and as it may continue?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but maybe you could clarify it for me just before.
Yeah, which coaching staffs do you think are best equipped to handle dealing with all these injuries, like building the best lineup night in, night out?
Yeah, well, I think the Maple Leafs do get some credit. Like they've worked with the province to get the app, the COVID app on your computer. That was a Maple Leaf process that that got through, and I just think sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Can you refresh me one more time?
Yeah, team coaching staffs. Yeah,
Team coaching staff. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think Dallas Eakins does a good job. I think Joel. Oh my good. Joel, the Chicago Blackhawks or the Florida Panthers coaches.
Joe
Quenville,
Quenville
yep.
does an excellent job at managing injuries, mostly through his coaching staff, which
Right.
was an incredible. I mean, look, we had this scare the other night with Aaron Ekblad when there was this little pause of, oh God, he got hurt again.
Right.
He had his calf, and within 15 minutes, I mean, the trainers had the situation assessed, and he was back out on the ice to start the second period. So.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's crazy. We counted about 147 players that were not in the NH on an NHL lineup off the injury list. Now, the injury list this year is full of some players that are not in the NHL, obviously, or have quote unquote retired due to injury. But it's still up in like the 120s, which is unheard of.
Right.
Yeah, 1 week into a year. We're not talking about after trade deadline day and the rush to the playoffs. No, we're talking about 7 days.
Yeah.
The one injury that everybody keeps talking about, and we'll wrap up the injury, is the injury to Nikita Kutrav. Now, Tampa Bay is so deep, chances are it doesn't kill their season, because as long as they got Vasilevsky in the net and Hedman leading the defense, they'll be okay. But how big, really? Do you think people are maybe underestimating how big this injury is, and if he's out long term, or how big of a loss really is Kucherov to this organization?
Well, it's another year that you're looking at playing, not having one of the best players in the world out there and performing, even as just an entertainment model or an entertainment developer, and I think that's what happens here. I think the issue, and again, sorry, I'm just having a little trouble remembering tonight, guys. Could you read me the question again?
Yeah, Nikita Kucherov.
I'm sorry, Nikita Kutrav. Yeah, I think he's somebody that most people are predicting, at least at the start here, to have his injury timetable a little bit lower this season. He might not make the whole year. He might not make it. He might open in the Atlanta Braves game, at the Atlanta All-Star game. It's Vegas this year. Vegas All-Star game. I think that's what they're looking to do there.
Yeah, it was interesting. John Cooper's comments were even very cryptic, as if to say, well, he needs to rest until maybe the All-Star game. Maybe he'll play in the Olympics. Maybe he'll be ready by the play. There was kind of a little bit of gamesmanship even with his injury time. Now, of course, the obvious is, whatever this is, I don't think is a 6.5 month injury from the sounds of what you're hearing from their coaching staff, from their players, etc. If it's, say, even 3 months, how much of an impact does that actually make on Tampa if he's only out, say, till February, as opposed to the start of the playoffs?
Yeah, well, they must have some internal worry about those
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah,
it's weird. It's like there's a balance. Like you almost see like the Tampa Bay organization, at least from coaching, the management, etc., going through the 5 stages of grief right now, right before our eyes, which is a little bit strange given, I guess, what's going on in the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, Tampa, people say they circumvented the cap. I don't know. I think they've got players in almost every NHL office now, guys, where they've got capologists, they've got cap specialists. They know how far they can push, and they want to try and push a little bit farther. And then that comes out as something more dramatic to a team, so they kind of back off and hope that they can still get it through. And that's just the business of the game, I think.
That makes for a good transition into dealing with cap issues and disgruntled players and all of that. the Sabres and Jack Eichel saga continues to go on. Over the weekend, it came out that the Sabres don't want to retain any salary in any Jack Eichel deal. Makes sense. If he's not going to play, like, you're in a rebuilding, you don't want to keep that cap. Vegas has been known as the front runners. They don't want to give up Peyton Krebs, but we're also at a point where a lot of teams that could take on Eichel, one, won't because of the injury. They don't know he's going to come back for that salary, but they also can't afford to work that cap out without cap going the other way. So how do you see this Jack Eichel thing finally ending? Are we anywhere? Do you think, if you were to, not saying if you were a betting man, but do you think we actually see something before maybe the end of 2021, before the Christmas roster freeze? Do you think we get a resolution to this, or are we looking into January into 2022 where then Eichel and his reps have to seriously consider filing a complaint against the organization?
Yeah, I think I expect guys that, you're going to see the setup of certain things, in the Buffalo organization to try to see themselves as a demanding push back from what they consider as a push. And, I think when you look at teams that could pick up Jack Eichel, Anaheim to me stands out as one of the front runners. I think you've got young guys, young prospects that are pretty solid in their system, and they just they will have the room if they can move out a couple of guys at the end of this year. Actually, I think they already have enough real cap room to do some damage. But whether Jack Adams. Jack Adams. Oh my God, I'm losing on. It's the worst call ever, guys. Where Jack Eichel is there. So, but I just feel like it's something that's not really close at hand. I never get the sense that there's people that expect Eichel to be gone very soon. I think the team knows that they hold the hammer contractually in the NHL, and they're willing to use it. And it's a problem for him, and probably a problem for the league to look at too.
We'll get you out of here on this, Adam, and everybody. You can follow Adam on Twitter at Prototype, PROTEAU type on the Twitter. With this season, the way it started, is this, and it kind of goes back to the beginning with the injuries. Could this be one of the strangest years as far as teams that find success because of that? Do you think things are shaping up to be one of the most interesting? Again, it's only 1 week. Overreactions are a thing, but it's shaping up to be one of the more unique situations we've ever had as far as teams injuries, and maybe seeing teams that should have been contenders not even making the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I think sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, is this? Do you think this is possibly shaping up because of all the injuries so far, of being one of the more unique or odd seasons where we see teams that should be contenders not even sniff the playoffs?
Right. No, I don't think so. I think it won't be so topsy-turvy, guys. I think it'll be a push. And to me, the question isn't that type of question that you've asked, but I want to know, if you're bringing those Olympic players, the best in the world to fight for their country, you're going to have a very tough battle. And I think having that tough battle in the middle of the season, just before the All-Star break, I believe, they know, people know and players know that the schedule, I think, is going to be tougher and tougher as the years go on. They're going to have more World Cup events of hockey. They're going to have more games in Europe that'll be coming soon. So I'm not sure really. I just think it's a question that I can't answer in a brief moment. I'm sorry.
All right, Adam, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Again, you can find Adam on Twitter at Prototype, PROTEAU TYPE. Thank you again, and we will talk to you again real soon.
I hope so, guys. Thanks.
All right, Chris. The injuries. Before we get in to wrapping this week's show up with our 3 stars of week 1.
Yes.
What do you think what road do you think we're heading down right now?
Look, I think at some point you're going to have a bit of a lull, at least where players do get. I mean, we've seen it early this week. Austin Matthews came back yesterday. There's a couple players they're well on their men that came back. Damon Severson, the Devils, came back tonight, unfortunately, because Ty Smith's they're on his way as well. You'll start seeing players at least start to heal up a little. I believe Evgeny Malkin was seen yesterday at practice as well. It doesn't mean that he's close. It just means that he's there. Sidney Crosby participated in an almost full practice yesterday too. So is it more pronounced than usual? Yes. Is it very unusual? Yes. Is it uncommon? I can't say that it is anymore. This is starting to become sort of not the new normal, but it's darn close because we've now seen this in the early part of the season at least a few times before. It just hasn't been quite like this.
But is there any one thing? Is this just terrible luck, or is there something that we can point to? Because I don't know. It feels like, is there something the league can do about this?
There's not much they can do. I mean, look, you had a lot of players that came off injuries too. I mean, look, Nicholas Backstrom is a great example of this. He was supposed to be out 4-5 months or so. He's probably going to be out close to 6 now. It's just that is an example of a fluke case where he's just not healing as fast as maybe he should. It's just one of those things. There's not a set thing saying, oh, hey, so-and-so isn't. And the variety of injuries too, as well. I mean, you look at LA, Quentin Byfield he breaks an ankle. And then 2 days later, another player breaks his ankle. There's some freak sort of things that are happening in ways that just, I could try and explain it, but it would take hours. And people don't even on Twitter don't have time to sit there for hours going, oh, well, this player got hurt because this player. It's all different things, Mike, unfortunately. And there's not just one cookie cutter answer for this.
Well, we're going to see how things go over the next little while, but
it's going to be fun.
Right now, let's transition into our early season flukes.
Woohoo.
What team or teams early start won't last to you? Like, we have the teams that started really well. We have Buffalo winning their first 2 games. We have the Islanders losing their first 2 games. We have Ottawa playing well at 2-1. We have St. Louis and Minnesota playing how we expect St. Louis and Minnesota. Winnipeg doesn't know what they're doing. Anaheim started out okay. What teams? Yeah, Chicago is Chicago. What teams or what did you see from the first week that you're like, nah, that's not a sign of things to come?
I think one of the examples, it's more because of I just don't know how long that John Gibson can keep this up, but it's the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, he faced what felt like 650 shots against Calgary at one point last night, and he looked like Bugs Bunny out there. And
yeah.
Look, I get that he does this about 3 or 4 times a year. I understand that, and as a hockey writer and analyst, etc., I should come to accept that, and it's just there. Sort of like the steak in the Matrix. It's supposed to taste like a steak and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yet you sit there almost dumbfounded because they gave up 19 high danger scoring chances, Mike. 11 in the second period alone. And not one of those damn things went in.
It makes me very sad for Gibson being wasted. I think we're at the point we could say he's being wasted.
This is worse than Corey Schneider being wasted in New Jersey. It really is.
Well, Gibson is actually an all-world goaltender.
So was Snyder at one time before somebody
Oh.
screwed up his hip.
Okay. Sure.
He was
Sure.
there.
Sure he was.
920. Wait,
Fluke.
930
Fluke.
save percentage.
Fluke.
No
We're talking
fluke.
about
He played-
flukes in this segment.
He
Corey
played.
Schneider.
Wait,
Ginger
he
Fluke.
He played under the worst circumstances you could possibly play.
Okay,
under.
I
He tried to
officially
replace
realized.
Marty.
No, I'm realizing what he's reacting to.
Oh, jeez. We've gone full brutality. I love it. See, most people will get mad by this. You kind of have to sit there. I mean, if the host is going to point this out to you, you have to sit there and just tip. You have to tip your cap. You really do. But no, all joking aside, I mean, look, there's a lot of crazy flukes. There absolutely is. I
100%.
mean, you look at Gibson. You look at. I mean, God, do you really think that, see, I can't call the Islanders a fluke yet because until they show me a gear that's faster than second gear.
Yeah, they've looked.
They look all slow.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm going to go out and say Kyle Oposo's hot start is a fluke.
Oh, that's 100%. You have to. I mean, God bless them.
4 points in 3 games, not even 3 full games. They're entering the third period, getting ready. But he's got 4 points. He has 2 points tonight, goal and assist.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy who everybody looks to when they think bad Sabres contracts. And everybody points to him. He wrote a letter. He's an assistant captain. He wrote a letter to the fans saying, if you show up, you will see a hard-working team. Don Granato, we all know Ralph Kruger killed a lot of that team last year. Don Granato is making that team play like they're having fun. They may not be a great team. They may not sniff the top 20 of the NHL. They're probably at best 22nd at best.
At best.
Maybe something happens and they're the Cinderella of the season. Doubt it, but who knows? Stranger things have happened in the NHL. But the thing is, if they're going to come out, they're going to show grit and they're going to show passion. They're going to be entertaining and fight and not get dominated for 29 straight games. Even when they won some games, like they were still on the wrong side of the Corsi and all the advanced stats. I think Sabres fans will be happy. But yeah, his start, fluke. Anze Kopitar, 7 points at the start of the season. I don't think that's going to last.
I mean, we are near Halloween, and he does have zombie eyes in middle.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I mean,
but I mean, if Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar are going to be at the top of the league in points, then that team's going to be fine. But there's no way at this stage the two of those players are doing it.
Wasn't it crazy though, Mike, that the 3 stars of the week last week were players you thought it was something from 2010?
Right? That was my first.
You had Ovechkin, Stamkos, and Kopitar. I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly. And Stamkos, another guy. I mean, it's great to see with his injury luck.
It's awesome. I mean, look, let's make this very clear. We are not bashing older hockey players at all. I think, and Mike will agree with me with this, we think it's great. It's awesome. I mean, look, I'm 46. I wholeheartedly embrace the idea of these players turning back the clock and just going, wow. I mean, look, even I know I'm going to get hated for this. Even Jason Spezza, which is the one question I forgot to ask Adam, the Swiss utility knife of the Toronto Maple Leafs, has managed to carve out a nice little I won't say fantasy hockey relevance totally, but enough that you put him, you have to have him somewhere at least, because he can score on a 40.80 game pace.
Yeah, it's just, there's no way, like, the Kings and Kopitar 7 points in 2 games. That's not happening. Like McDavid, again, 3 games or 2 games in, he's got 5 points. But you know who's been who I've liked his performance and in 2 games, 6 points. Jordan Kyrou. He was a player that the Blues needed to really take that next step. We've talked about him a little bit over the offseason.
Yep.
And if this is a sign, he's one guy that I don't think this is a fluke. I don't think he's going to get 3 points a game. Obviously, if he does, he's going in the record books as one of the greatest seasons ever in the history of hockey. Like Wayne Gretzky came and touched that. But I don't see that being a fluke. I see him making that next step into being the top line guy they they need him to be and a number one center that they need him to be as their players start to get older. And that was really nice to see over the first two games because I really liked them, and it's nice to see Berube's trust in him get rewarded by performance.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, this comes down to if there, God forbid, is a sort of adverse streak with Jordan Kyrou, if really Craig Berube has turned that sort of new leaf and can, not yank him off a top 6 role, because that's what's happened the last 2 years. I mean, as soon as Kyrou has shown any signs of struggling, he's yanked back into the middle 6 or worse, and his confidence just gets shot, and you see the wheels fall off and everything else. So as a St. Louis fan, you hope to see more of this, because this is the Jordan Kyrou that a lot of us were envisioning last year. And we're seeing it on full display. It's a lot of fun, and it's fantastic to watch.
We'll transition now as we wrap up the show. We're going to do this most every week. We are going to do 3 stars. Who were your top 3 standouts of the week?
God, I had so much.
And it doesn't really have to be in order if you don't want.
Okay, I'm not going to do this in order. As much as I want to say the Ante Kopitar and Drew Doughty duo, just because it was so ridiculously surprising to turn on a TV late at night and go, huh? What year is this? No, I'm going to go one guy who literally. Is Kevin Lankinen watching by chance? Because he doesn't want to see this. Jack Hughes still has faked out all of Chicago with his one movie. People, if you have somehow not seen this goal, and I know there's been a lot of goal of the year highlight goals this year already that have been scored, just go see this goal from beginning to end, just to enjoy it and have fun and embrace it for all its utter stupidity that it should not have worked, but it did. But all kidding aside, look, Jack Hughes is a lot of fun to watch. We've seen him grow more and more in the last 2+ seasons, and you look forward to seeing what a guy can do with a competent top defenseman like Dougie Hamilton and some better line mates. Obviously, second star. Oh my dear God! And I jinxed him so freaking bad tonight too. Cam Talbot, because it was looking so good for the first 2 starts, and then I'm like, oh, Talbot's going to be an instant lock to the start tonight. What's the worst that could happen? He's already given up 2 goals early to Winnipeg. It's kind of a wild one up there in the land of.
Are you saying a wild? Did you really just say it's a wild one up there?
It's a wild one. Hey, look, I could have pulled out the David Byrne song. It's a wild, wild life.
Let's not and say we didn't.
Exactly. Number 1 star again. Like I said, I want to go Doughty, but it's Connor McDavid. That hat trick was not fair. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of ways you can go, but the third goal, it's like, oh, come on. It's like the first question you ask is, how can a goalie stop that? And the second question answers yourself, because you simply just go, you can't.
Exactly. So for me,
all right, Mike, I want to sit back and get my popcorn for this.
All right. So I'm not going to do. All right. My number 3.
Do it in order.
No, I'm gonna. My number 3.
Gonna go there. I love it.
I'm gonna put Kopitar because 7 points in 2 games is disgusting. Okay. Like, I don't care. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. My number 2 may surprise people, but I loved how he played through the first 2 games. Darnell Nurse, 2 assists, 30+ minutes per game both nights. He's averaging 30 minutes a game and through 2 games. And he looks everything as much. He looked through the first 2 games as much of a number 1 center in a shutdown or defenseman, and as number 1 defenseman as you could hope out of him. He's everything. He looked everything Edmonton fans want him to be. Edmonton wants him to be. it was fantastic to watch him. Against Calgary, like he threw people around, and he didn't take anybody's nonsense, and he just looked really good. I really loved what I saw out of him. But I mean, and then the 2 points, the 2 assists on top of that, one of them power play. And then my number one, I'm gonna go because of what he's gone through to get here. I'm gonna go Stamkos. So it's not really like I went off the grid with these numbers or with these players. Maybe for Darnell Nurse, because no one expects someone to go, a defenseman who didn't put up a lot of points. Like, okay, Doughty has 6 points. Why isn't he up there? Whatever. Victor Hedman has 5 points. Why isn't he up there? Because neither of them did defensively what I liked out of Darnell Nurse. But Stamkos, I came close in my head of doing Jordan Kyrou as my number one star, but I want to see a little more. Right. Graham, this is going to change every week. It's stars of the week, so I guess I could just go Kyrou, but I'm going to go Stamkos because 7 points is 7 points, and he looked like the Stamkos of old, and it was really nice to see. And not the Stamkos that got benched by Barry Melrose, but the Stamkos of gold after Melrose went bye-bye.
Right.
Everybody remembers that. That was a fun year. 08 was fun.
What was that? Was that like the 16 days of Melrose or something like that?
Yeah, that was such a terrible.
Oh.
And as we wrap up here, we're going to do it. It's a weekly show, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to just scoreboard update. Florida beating Tampa 1-0 as we go off the air. Woo! San Jose up 4-0. Jeff Skinner with his first goal of the season in Vancouver. Or Buffalo leads Vancouver 3-2. Devils over Seattle 3-1. Pittsburgh and Dallas tied at 1. Washington doubling up Colorado 4-2. Minnesota and Winnipeg tied. Chris, what do you got going on this week?
What don't I got going on? I mean, look, it's nice. It's nice to finally be able to like see the sunlight instead of sleeping half the day. But all joking aside, we got quite a bit. We'll have some stuff on what over the weekend on what's really wrong with Montreal, and we'll dig back and look at what how the Devils are enjoying this 6-game homestand to start the season.
And as I say this, Tage Thompson just scored 20 seconds later. It's now 4-2 Buffalo over Vancouver.
I'm telling you, plan the parade.
We're going to win that cup. Yeah, my Buffalo Sabres. Yeah.
See,
look,
I mean,
he's not even, this guy,
3-0 is a buzzword.
This guy's not even in the lineup. Every week, I think I'm going to have a new player back here.
You got to have a new player.
Every week.
I mean, look, to be honest, it's the first thing I looked at. I'm like, what?
It's like, Casey Middlestad's face.
Wow, the O face.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. As always, to FPH Weekly. You can follow Full Press on Twitter at Full Press NHL. You can follow Chris at Chris Wassel DFS, myself at Mike Straw Media. We will see you next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern, with a full house of myself, Chris, and Jim making his return. Until next time, we're out.